Welcome back to Improved Web Shows. My name is Dustin Olson, and I want to talk about video graphics cards for video editing. Okay, this is a very common question for those of you who are getting into video podcasting or even video editing. And you might be wondering, what do I need for my computer so that I could do this more effectively? And I spent a few days on the internet researching and finding what other people were saying, what the computer pros were saying that worked absolutely best. Not to mention what Adobe was even saying of what kind of graphics cards worked with their software. So the answer is NVIDIA Quadro graphics cards. Why NVIDIA? Because they have what is called CUDA technology that is unique to NVIDIA that they use and what Adobe has relied on until recently to render video files. Even in Photoshop, there are some filters that require rendering that use this CUDA stuff. And it is important. Why? Because you can see, at least with this one, this is the Quadro 2000, okay, with an i7 processor, 16 gigs RAM, and this graphics card, they say that you see up to a 6 times performance boost in rendering. That's pretty significant. And this isn't the high end either. This is kind of middle of the road with their graphics cards. And so 6 times is pretty big if you're just using anything else. So that's what I would also recommend, is an NVIDIA graphics card with CUDA technology. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Quadro version, but as long as it has CUDA on it. This used to be very true and highly applicable if you're using anything other than Adobe CS6. And Adobe CS6, they've made some changes to the software where they no longer use CUDA, but rather they're using OpenGL and processor performance to actually make the files render a little bit faster. So if you have upgraded the latest CS6, you probably don't need to feel like you have to go out and spend the big money on a graphics card. If you're a Mac user and you're buying the high end of the MacBook Pro 15-inch or the new iMac that just came out, okay, if you're buying those come with NVIDIA cards. So you don't have to worry about oh, I don't have CUDA, I don't have this NVIDIA stuff. Okay, if you're buying a high-end Mac, it's going to come with it. Even if you don't have a computer that has an NVIDIA graphics card and you're running CS6, or even if you're not, you can still render your stuff really well if you have a decent amount of RAM and a high processor performance, such as an i7. Okay, those are really helpful. Until recently, this was a big deal. But the more that I think about it, you probably don't need this unless you're running older versions of Adobe. Okay. On my website, if you click on the link below this video, or if you are viewing this video on my website, then you can just look below. I have recommendations for good, better, and best graphics cards for PC users and for Mac users. I'll tell you what kind of computer you should get if you're a Mac user, because interesting thing about Mac is that you can only upgrade your graphics card at the time of purchase. Anytime after that, it's pretty much done. Why? Because they've converted themselves into mobile technology, and that's how they're able to get things so thin and nice looking. So I kind of have to give and take. But if a graphics card is important to you, if your software depends on what NVIDIA and processor performance, getting the best processor you can, is probably going to be the absolute best thing you can do for your computer. I hope this helps, and that finding your graphics card is just a little bit easier than it was. Thanks.